Margaret had always believed that family meant loyalty, but that warm September afternoon, when her daughter-in-law Emma dismissed her with those cruel words, something inside her quietly shifted. "You'll die poor and alone," Emma had said, laughing over the phone to her sister. Margaret had answered the landline by accident, hearing every venomous word. "Richard's mother still rents that tiny apartment at 72. Can you imagine? Meanwhile, Richard and I are building our dream home." Margaret stood in her modest kitchen, the receiver trembling in her hand. She had raised Richard alone after her husband passed, working double shifts as a nurse to put him through college. She had never asked him for anything. Not once, but Emma's mockery cut deep, not because of the words themselves, but because Richard had apparently shared intimate details of Margaret's financial situation with a woman who held nothing but contempt for her. That evening, Margaret made a decision. She had been saving carefully for 30 years, living simply, investing wisely. The money had been intended for Richard and his future children, but perhaps, she thought, there was another way to show love, a different kind of lesson. 3 months later, Margaret called Richard with news. "Darling, I've made an investment. I bought a small villa in Tuscany. I'm moving there next spring." There was a long pause. "Mom, that's sudden. Can you afford that?" She smiled to herself. "I've been more careful with money than you realized, sweetheart. I want to spend my remaining years somewhere beautiful. But what about us? The grandchildren? You can visit anytime," Margaret said warmly. "There's plenty of room." Richard sounded uncertain, but he wished her well. Margaret heard Emma's voice in the background, sharp and insistent, though she couldn't make out the words. The villa was more than small. It was a restored farmhouse with stone walls, lavender gardens, and a view of rolling hills that seemed to stretch into eternity. Margaret hired a local woman named Lucia to help maintain it. She took Italian lessons. She joined a book club in the village. For the first time in decades, she felt truly free. She sent photos to Richard. Beautiful sunsets, the garden in bloom. Her smile was genuine in every picture. Then, 6 months after her move, Richard called with different news. "Mom, Emma and we're having some troubles. Financial troubles. The house project went over budget. I was wondering if maybe you could help us." Margaret's heart ached, not with vindication, but with sadness. "Oh, Richard, I wish I could, but the villa took most of my savings. I'm living on my pension now." It wasn't entirely true, but it was close enough. "I understand," Richard said quietly. "It was wrong of me to ask." "How are the children?" Margaret asked gently. "They miss you, Emma says." He trailed off. "What does Emma say?" "She wants to visit with the kids. She thinks maybe we could stay for a few weeks this summer while we figure things out." Margaret looked out at her terrace, where jasmine climbed the ancient walls. She thought carefully before answering. "Of course, you can visit," she said. "But Richard, I need you to understand something. This villa isn't your inheritance anymore. I'm living my life now, not saving it for later." "I know, Mom. I'm sorry I never appreciated what you sacrificed." "I didn't sacrifice anything, darling. I chose to love you, but love isn't the same as obligation. I hope you'll teach your children that." There was emotion in Richard's voice when he spoke again. "Emma said some things about you. I should have defended you. I should have stood up for you." Margaret felt tears gathering, but they weren't bitter. "You can start now." When Richard, Emma, and the children arrived that July, Margaret greeted them with genuine warmth. The children ran through the gardens, delighted. Emma was quiet, almost subdued, her earlier arrogance replaced by something more uncertain. On the third evening, while Richard played with the children in the olive grove, Emma found Margaret on the terrace. "I owe you an apology," Emma said softly. "Richard told me what I said on the phone that day, that you heard everything." Margaret poured 2 glasses of local wine and handed one to Emma. "Yes, I heard. I was cruel. I was foolish. I thought money and status were what mattered." Emma's voice wavered. "We almost lost everything. Our marriage, our home. It made me realize what I'd become. Margaret studied her daughter-in-law's face. The pride was gone, replaced by something more human. What matters now? She asked this, Emma said, gesturing to the children's laughter floating up from the garden. Them. Richard. You. I was so busy chasing an image of success that I forgot about actual happiness. Margaret reached over and squeezed Emma's hand. Then you've learned something valuable. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun painted the Tuscan sky in shades of amber and rose. The villa is beautiful, Emma said eventually. You deserve this. I do, Margaret agreed. And when I'm gone, it will be sold, and the money will go to the children's education. Not to buy things, but to buy opportunities. That's the inheritance I choose to leave. Emma nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. That's more generous than we deserve. It's not about deserving, Margaret said gently. It's about loving wisely. Richard joined them then, carrying his youngest daughter on his shoulders. He looked at his mother and saw her clearly, perhaps for the first time in years. Not as the woman who had raised him, or the grandmother who sent birthday cards, but as Margaret, a person with her own dreams and dignity. I love you, Mom, he said. I love you too, sweetheart, all of you. As the Italian evening settled around them, warm and fragrant, Margaret felt something she hadn't felt in years: contentment. Not because she had taken revenge, though some might see it that way, but because she had chosen herself, finally, and in doing so had taught her family the most important lesson of all, that love without respect is hollow, that kindness must include kindness to yourself, and that sometimes the greatest gift you can give your children is showing them how to live with dignity, grace, and quiet strength. The villa stood against the darkening sky, solid and beautiful. It was hers, and that, Margaret thought, was enough.